Evil rarely announces itself. It doesn't come wrapped in darkness or horns. It arrives quietly, disguised as duty, obedience, or survival. It lives inside systems, inside orders, inside moments where good people convince themselves they're just following the rules. Philip Zimbardo once said, "The line between good and evil is movable and it's permeable." His Stanford prison experiment didn't reveal the monsters hiding in society. It revealed how easily they can be created. So the question isn't, why do bad people do bad things? It's, why do good people stop seeing that they are? The spark of transformation. Every act of evil begins with something deceptively small, a thought, a justification, a story we tell ourselves about why this time is different. It's the whisper that says, "I had no choice," or "I was just doing my job." That whisper is the seed of transformation. Goodness isn't a permanent state. It's a decision repeated over time. But when the environment shifts, when authority looms or fear tightens, even the best of us hesitate. We trade morality for safety, conscience for belonging. It starts with silence. You watch someone else cross the line, and you tell yourself it's not your place to intervene. Then one day you realize you've crossed it too, not because you're evil, but because you've stopped noticing when good turned neutral. The descent of ordinary people. Zimbardo's work shattered one of humanity's favorite illusions, that evil is done by others. His experiment showed how quickly ordinary, intelligent, kind people could descend into cruelty when placed in the right conditions. The guards weren't forced to harm anyone. They chose to. But that choice didn't feel like their own. It felt like part of the game, part of the role. That's what makes the Lucifer effect so terrifying. It tells us that goodness is fragile, context-dependent, and frighteningly easy to corrupt. We'd like to believe we'd resist, that we'd be the hero in the story. But statistically, we wouldn't. Most of us would adapt, because adaptation is what humans do best, even when it costs us our humanity. The environment of corruption. Evil doesn't need villains, it only needs the right environment. Zimbardo didn't pick psychopaths, he picked students, yet within days they became abusers. The system had done its job. The uniforms, the rules, the labels, they turned individuals into instruments. That's the hidden machinery behind corruption. It feels organized, legitimate, even moral. We follow orders because structure feels safe. We obey because we fear chaos. And while we think we're protecting something good, we're often just preserving control. You don't need a prison to create cruelty. You just need hierarchy, pressure, and silence. The workplace that rewards obedience over honesty. The nation that calls brutality defense. The online mob that destroys reputations for entertainment. The environment doesn't whisper, "Be cruel." It whispers, "This is normal." And when normality shifts, morality bends. Not because people change overnight, but because they stop realizing they have. The drift. How good slips away. No one wakes up and decides to be a monster. The drift happens quietly. It's the corners you cut, the truths you withhold, the small wrongs you excuse because everyone else does it. Each rationalization builds a bridge between who you were and who you become. Psychologists call it moral disengagement, the gradual separation between belief and behavior. You still think of yourself as good, you just stop verifying it. You convince yourself that outcomes matter more than ethics, that intention excuses impact. Even in the Stanford experiment, most guards didn't want to be cruel. They simply played along. The role made it easy, the system made it justified, and the silence made it invisible. That's how goodness fades, not through rebellion but through routine. Evil becomes efficient, polite, and quietly logical. The scariest monsters don't emerge from darkness. They grow in daylight, in offices, in schools, in homes. Wherever the difference between right and normal disappears, the role and the mask. Every role we play comes with a script. Father, boss, officer, citizen. Each role promises purpose, but each also contains a trap. Because the longer you play the part, the more the mask becomes your identity. You start to confuse authority with righteousness, power with virtue, silence with strength. You stop being a person and start being a position. That's how empathy erodes. You no longer see individuals, you see categories. You stop asking who deserves compassion and start asking who fits the label. The role makes cruelty look like competence. Zimbardo called this the power of the situation. The idea that our surroundings can override our morals, that under the right mask, almost anyone can justify almost anything. So maybe the question isn't whether you could ever become evil, but which version of yourself might already be drifting that way. Because monsters don't hide in shadows. They hide in uniforms, titles, traditions, and they believe they're doing what's right. The breaking point, when the mirror cracks. Eventually, though, the mask fractures. You look in the mirror and something feels off. Not because you see evil, but because you see emptiness. The reflection doesn't accuse you. It asks, when did you stop choosing? Some people wake up in that moment horrified by the roles they played. Others cling tighter, terrified of what honesty would cost them. That's the fracture Zimbardo witnessed when conscience and identity collide. Realization is painful, but it's also proof of humanity. Guilt, shame, regret. They mean the moral compass still exists. Denial, however, seals the transformation. Because the moment you refuse to see what you've become, you lose the chance to change it. Everyone meets this mirror eventually, in moments of anger, pride, or power, and the reflection we face is rarely monstrous. It's disturbingly familiar, because evil doesn't destroy your humanity. It repurposes it. Awareness is resistance. Awareness is the antidote. Evil doesn't thrive because people are cruel. It thrives because people are unaware. The instant you begin to see how systems bend behavior, how conformity rewires compassion, how fear manipulates obedience, you start to break the loop. You can't eliminate darkness from the world, but you can learn to recognize its outline. Awareness turns guilt into vigilance, and vigilance into strength. You're not good because you never fall. You're good because you notice when you start to. Because awareness interrupts the drift. It catches the mask before it hardens. It stops the system from swallowing your soul. That's the difference between innocence and integrity. Innocence avoids temptation. Integrity confronts it and still chooses light. If this made you think differently, if it made you question what you do under pressure, then you've already begun the resistance. Subscribe to the Perception Loop, where we expose the hidden mechanics of the mind before they control you. Because awareness isn't just knowledge, it's armor.